Hi, in this video, not just one, but two tough-talking 60s movies that both star Jim Brown and Gene Hackman. Before I get on to the first one, do you recognise this image? Maybe this will help you. Yep, that's Lee Marvin in the 1967 movie Point Blank that is directed by the great John Boorman. Point Blank was an adaptation of a Parker novel from the writer Richard Stark, which was a pseudonym of Donald E. Westlake. They changed the Parker name. Lee Marvin was called Walker in this film. And this film was an early film for the producers, Irwin Winkler and Robert Chartroff, two successful producers who went on to produce movies such as the Rocky series, Raging Bull, The Right Stuff, many others. But yeah, definitely this was a big hit in 1967 and they were keen to capitalise on it. And so in 1968, they were able to adapt another Richard Stark Parker novel, once again changing the name of Parker to McLean. They didn't have Lee Marvin for it, but interestingly, they cast Jim Brown. And this was going to be a movie that was involving a heist of money at a big event football game, 90,000 crowd, and they were going to take all the winnings there. Very reminiscent of something like Stanley Kubrick's The Killing. Now, wait till you hear the cast of this movie. Alongside Jim Brown in this, you have Gene Hackman, although he only appears in the final 20 minutes, Ernest Borgnine, Donald Sutherland, Diane Carroll, Julie Harris, Warren Oates, and Jack Klugman. Incredible cast. You've got a music score here that's by Quincy Jones and with a theme song sung by Billy Preston. And then very interestingly, the film is directed not by the great director John Boorman, but instead by another British director, but Gordon Fleming. Now, Gordon Fleming really was involved mainly in British television, but he did also direct Doctor Who with the Daleks and Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD. My sister has the poster of that movie, one of my all-time favourite posters, even if it isn't one of my all-time favourite movies. Now, The Split was really the first starring role for Jim Brown. He'd previously had supporting roles in the likes of Ice Station Zebra, and here's Lee Marvin again. He was in The Dirty Dozen, as was Ernest Borgnine and Donald Sutherland. Now, like I say, Gene Hackman's role in this is only in the last 20 minutes of the movie, but he does have a very significant role and he is very good in it. So this is a movie that does involve a lot of tough talking. It is a heist movie, a lot of characters that are involved. But sadly, the script isn't really tight enough and it is a bit of a loose movie. It doesn't really excite in the way that it should. And in fact, some of the scenes feel as though key moments have been left out. So yeah, it's a little bit scrappy in that respect. Perhaps some of that is down to the script and perhaps some of that is down to Gordon Fleming's direction. Like I say, quite a bizarre choice for him to be the director on this. But while the film pales into comparison with Point Blank and it wasn't as successful as that film, it is nonetheless pretty exciting to see a cast gathered together like this. And it is still quite an exciting thriller with lots of twists and turns in it and lots of distrust amongst them as things happen with the money and the money goes missing and they all start to suspect each other. And like I say, Gene Hackman's role when he comes into the film, he really creates an interesting twist on the film. So yeah, The Split, definitely an interesting movie. So Point Blank absolutely is the more famous adaptation of Parker. And there have been other ones. Coincidentally, actually, if you go over to Nazarin Prod's channel, he has literally just done a video just the other day talking about a couple of Parker adaptations. Robert Duvall being in The Outfit and Mel Gibson starring in Payback. And then later this year, actually, we've got Mark Wahlberg starring in Play Dirty, which is going to be adapted by Shane Black. So hopefully with his writing skills, that's going to be a good one. Now, when it comes to prison movies that are actually set in real prisons, there are a number of really good ones to choose from. A particular favourite of mine is this one, A Man Escaped, directed by Robert Bresson. And then, of course, the American director Don Siegel. He was no slouch at directing movies set in prisons. He directed Riot in Cell Block 11, as well as directing Clint Eastwood in Escape from Alcatraz. And then another movie I like to talk about is this one, Live at Sing Sing. Okay, it's non-fiction. This is actually a filmed concert at Sing Sing prison with B.B. King and Janis Joplin, but also a number of prison inmates as well, and you get to see inside a lot of the cells. But yeah, you get to see a lot of the prison inmates actually performing some dramatic scenes on stage. And in fact, the recent film Sing Sing, starring Coleman Domingo, incorporates a lot of those themes. But the film to talk about now is from 1969. It reunites Jim Brown with Gene Hackman, and they get equal screen time this time, and it is the movie Riot. Now, this was produced by William Castle, and it was directed by Buzz Kulik, a director who did a lot of American TV. And this was actually filmed inside Arizona State Prison. And this was a live prison, and they've managed to use a lot of the prison inmates, the guards, and even the warden gets a kind of starring role, if you like, in the film. So yeah, quite interesting in that respect. The premise of the film basically is that Jim Brown and Gene Hackman cause a riot. They take control of the prison, they lock away some of the guards, but they then use that as a pretense, if you like, to externally look as if they're sort of arguing for terms and conditions, but in reality they are digging a tunnel so that they can try and get out. But yeah, this is a pretty interesting drama. It's not entirely successful, and I think that's because of the looseness in which they had to try and make this film. That, you know, the actual difficulties of filming within a prison that was, you know, being used, it seems. So yeah, that does affect the continuity of some of the scenes and the effectiveness of some of the drama. But still, very interesting one to watch. It's quite funny in that Jim Brown seems to have, every time he does a particularly long walk in the film, he has a theme tune that's played by Bill Medley as he walks, so that's quite amusing. But yeah, the film does turn to some pretty bleak moments towards the end, and in fact how Gene Hackman reaches his conclusion in the film is pretty intense. So yeah, Riot is not an exceptional film by any means, but it is an interesting one from the late 60s. So yeah, just interesting. I think that early in his career he did these two films, Gene Hackman with Jim Brown. So let me know if you've seen both of these films. Let me know your thoughts on them. Thanks very much for watching this. All the best to you. Bye-bye.